Hello and welcome to this video where we're going to be talking about the Google Cloud Architecture Diagramming tool. So for those who don't know yet, Google recently released the new architecture diagramming tool, which helps you go from no architecture to running or implementing your own ideas in no time. So if you're new to cloud architecture, you may say, "Oh well, what's a cloud architecture diagramming tool, right?" So, and why can't I just, draw my architecture on a piece of paper? But the problem with that is when you need to share those visualizations that you have with a team or with stakeholders to validate those ideas, it becomes a problem, right? And so an architecture diagramming tool help you communicate these visions or ideas to larger teams, and you can also reference this as part of your application documentation for use later in the future. And they're actually very essential to continuously building maintainable applications. So they also help you communicate complex dependencies, complex dependencies in your application stack, right? You can easily visualize all of these dependencies in a single diagram and share with the entire team. So we're going to be looking at the cloud architecture diagram tools. There are similar tools in this space as well. Some of these are Lucid Chart, diagrams.net, and the much older ones like VCU, for example. So, but there are a few things that are actually very, very unique to the Google Cloud Architecture Diagramming tool, and we're going to be looking at those. So let's get into it. There are three main functionalities that this tool provides, and we're going to be taking a look at them. And the first is the ability to build from scratch. So this tool serves as a centralized place for all of Google Cloud Services icons. So if you need to build an architecture, you can easily come here and find reference to all of Google approved architecture diagrams. No need to go around searching Google for diagrams for the different Google services that you want to use in your architecture diagrams. So before this tool, what this process looked like, if you needed to draw an architecture diagram for your GCP architecture, is going to Google, searching and finding an icon, or going to the Google Cloud Icon Library. So Google has this repository of icons here where you can download all of Google Cloud icons either as a PNG or as an SVG set. And they also maintain this Google Slides document, which is continually updated with new Google Cloud icons and for new services as they come into existence. So what this process looked like was to come here, get the icons you need. All these are grouped into the different Google Cloud services. And when you get these icons, you import them into your architecture diagramming tool, either Lucid Charts or diagrams.net or VCO, and then you can use them from there to design your architecture diagrams. But lucky enough for us, this tool solves that problem for you. Now you have all of the icons in one single place, and you can just drag and use them as much as you need for your architecture diagrams. So that solves all of that problem from you, for you, which is amazing to have. The next main functionality of this tool is referenced architectures, which I find really amazing. So this tool gives you access to tens of referenced architectures that have been designed by some of the best engineers at Google. And if you're designing a new application, it's often good to see if one of these reference architectures already serve the use case, and then you can just pick and use them instantly as opposed to designing your own architecture from scratch. So if you design a commercially available application or something like a banking application, for example, machine learning, there are reference architectures for different types of applications here. And it's a really good collection that I'll suggest you take a look at before you start designing your own architectures. And then the third functionality we're going to be taking a look at is the one-click deploy, which is like my favorite part of this tool, right? You can easily deploy some of these referenced architectures by just one click. And that is something to beat, right? I don't see any other architecture diagramming tool out there that's currently doing this. And I think this is one feature that makes this tool really, really distinctive, especially if your architecture runs on Google. This is an amazing have. So without talking too much about it, let's get into it and build a simple architecture diagram. and basically just taking the tool for a spin here and see all what we can achieve with it. So let's get into building a simple sample architecture diagram for fictitious application. So we're going to build a simple architecture diagram that puts a load balancer in the front of 3 computer engine and a managed instance groups. So we start by selecting a shape here, and then we're going to choose a background color. I'm going to choose this one and draw out a base shape. You can move things around. Now I want a different one in here. So let's pick the shape again, change the color a bit to, let's say, something a bit darker. And we're gonna draw out and we're gonna draw this out. Okay, perfect. Okay, so we're gonna pick out a shape. Just gonna go to compute engine, go to compute, and I have different compute engine icons in here. Just gonna pick one. I'm gonna duplicate it. I'll just pick a different one and add it. Now I have to compute engine instances here. Gonna put this into something I'll call managed instance group. Select the text icon, and with that you can select additional formatting for the text. So we're just gonna keep this left aligned, medium, color. We're gonna keep it on white text, and then we just type and call this managed instance group. So this is a make group which I want to use. And then I need a load balancer. I just come here as well. Load balancer is going to be under networking in the Google Cloud application categories, and you have cloud load balancer, right? So I'm just going to pick a load balancer here. Just going to put that in here, and then I'm just going to connect that to our architecture. So how do you make connections? Just click on the icon, and then you can select the connector tool. I think that should be one of this. Just gonna select that and then drag all the way, and that's how you make a connection. So I'll just change the color of that to something else. Let's choose a black color, much more visible. Okay, and then I need a client for my architecture, so I'm just gonna select. Something interesting about this is you can also search, so I can just say desktop or something, computer as a client. Okay, so let's search for something else. Okay, still searching, still searching. It's a bit slow. Let's say a phone. And no result for that as well. Okay, so I know where this is. That's something I think the search doesn't really work that great. So if I go to icons and I can scroll all the way, I'll just pick a display here. I can call this a client. You can rename the text here, or just this client PC or something, and that should do. I'm just gonna put this out here. So it's gonna hide this. Move all the way out, and we have a client. And we're just gonna add a connection from our client. Our client makes requests to our load balancer, and our load balancer is responsible for routing the traffic all the way to our managed instance groups. So yeah, this architecture is not perfect. It's just demo, just to see how the tool works. Definitely some of those transitions are not as smooth yet, but yeah, I'm sure this tool will get better with time. So just gonna add a title here. I'm gonna call this Google Architecture diagram in 1.0. And just like that, we have our architecture, and you can work on this, improve it as much as you want, but this is fine, good enough for me. I can export this at this point. You can highlight them and group everything together. But yeah, you can highlight this. Let's see, how do you group? Okay, selection is grouped by highlighting. You can actually copy to clipboard as a PNG, which is cool. Copy as SVG. Seems to be a lot of cool features here. But something else I'm going to do is to just export this. So you have the export here. You can export, save it to Dix, share it as a link, or save to Google Drive. I'm just going to save the file to Dix, desktop, and I'm just going to call this architecture diagram. This is actually saving the diagram file if I need to edit it at a later time, as an Excalibur diagram, and I'll tell you about this in a bit. So Excalibur is the project in which it is the Google Cloud Architecture Diagramming Tool is based off of. So Excalibur is an open source diagramming tool that you can use. So this export here helps you export the diagram if you need to continue editing it at a later time, or you can use this one to save it as an image. So you can export directly as a PNG, SVG, or whatever the case may be. I'll just let's see what this does. Embed scene. I'll just download PNG, and I'll just call this diagram the PNG, save it to my desktop, and that's it. You have your architecture diagram. You can export this and share with your team or add it to your Git repository. So next, we're gonna build a Google referenced architecture diagram. So we're gonna use a referenced architecture to reproduce the same use case we just did manually. So we're gonna start by just deleting everything we have here. So I'm just gonna highlight all of that and hit the delete. Are you sure? Yes, delete. All that cleared out. So we're just gonna go here, and you will see that there's actually a referenced architecture for that simple design that we just did, and it's gonna be here. We have, let's see, where are you? Yeah, so you have it in here, simple compute app. So I'm just gonna click and drag that architecture in here, and boom, we have everything that took us a few minutes to design and come up with in a simple step. Just click and drag, and that's it. You have your architecture, right? You have the same compute engine manage instance group, a load balancer in front of that, the device, and that's how you use referenced architecture. We're done. Now to the third point, which is using one-click deploy, which I told you about. My favorite part of this tool, and that works in line with the referenced architectures. Now, if you see, since I clicked and drag a referenced architecture and I have it here, you can see we have something here that says open in Google Cloud Shell. Now what this does is it allows you to deploy this entire application stack on Google Cloud using something a tool calls a deploy stack that takes this referenced architecture that you have here and deploys that same thing on Google Cloud architecture, and you can use that as a prototype. You don't really need a developer to go code this in if you just want to do a proof of concept. With something like this, the possibilities are limitless, right, for what you can do with a tool like this. And something to note as well is this is not available for all of the referenced architectures. So if I select something else, let's say the data pipeline, for example, you can see we have the referenced architecture here, and we can also deploy this. Okay, so this is probably not a good example. Let's pick something else. Let's say the AutoML model, for example. So if we pick the AutoML model, and there you go, you can see for this one, we don't have the one-click deploy. Because this may be very complicated to set up, right? You can just do one-click deploy for an ML model with all of this. There's a reason why Google don't have that yet. But for the basic use case, which we want, which is just a simple computer app, we have this one here, and we have opening Cloud Shell. So we're just gonna use that and see what this does. So opening Cloud Shell, and this provisions a Google Cloud Shell for us. You can see it's currently running provisioning our Cloud Shell. Just gonna speed this up a little bit, and it's ready in no time. So script is running. Please enter to continue. So we're just gonna hit enter, activate Cloud Shell, yes, authorize. That enables the API, and our deployment starting. So it's first up here, we need to choose a number from the list. I'm just gonna select the project, which is the GCP ADT demo is what I want to use for this. So I'll select 8. And the start and next step, choose the region. It has a reasonable default. So you have, if you just want to test this out, you can just go with the defaults, which is what I'm going to do in this case. I'll just hit enter key as well. Here as well, I'll hit enter again. And how many nodes that I want to provision in this managed instance group. I'll say 2. And you can see this is happening in real time. It is provisioning this infrastructure on my Google Cloud. All of these resources are getting created using Terraform. If you don't know about Terraform, it's a way to automate your infrastructure as code. So this is running a combination of scripts that runs Terraform and provisioning all of these resources in real time on my Google Cloud project. How cool is that? You can see it's setting up health checks, setting up the instances, setting up firewalls, and so much is just going on with just a single click of step. I haven't written any code, right? So we're just gonna wait for that to fully get provisioned. And something that's nice as well is you can actually preview the code that's getting deployed using this link here that's provided. So you can see everything that's getting deployed. You can view the project in GitHub directly, which shows you what is happening. So it's not magic, right? It looks like magic, right? But then it's all of this code here you have, which is a combination of scripts. That's a combination of Terraform scripts that's running with Bash scripting and it's provisioning all of this infrastructure. So if you need to edit or change the way some of these things work, you can actually download the code and customize it to fit to suit your use case, right? So if I go into scripts, you have the script here that runs everything. Just a shell script, and then you have Terraform files in main.tf, which provisions all of this infrastructure. So let's see how far our provisioning has gone, and still running, still creating. So I'm just gonna speed this up a little bit, and in a few minutes it should be done. Okay, and it's finally done, and it exposed an IP address here, so we can see we have an endpoint here for deployment. Took slightly longer than 5 minutes, but it's done. And if we go to our Google Cloud console, we should see those VM instances are provisioned with a managed instance group and a load balancer. So if I go to instance groups right now, we should see our provision instance group. So you can see we have a managed instance group with 2 instances, just the way we specified that we needed. And if we go to network services, load balancing, we should see a load balancer that's provisioned for us automatically by the one-click deploy. Okay, loading is a bit slow for some reason. Let's try again. Okay, so it's loading now, and for some reason my internet's a bit slow. But here we go. Our load balancer is here, and we can see provisions of load balancer. I'm gonna click on it, and okay, this is taking a longer time than expected for some reason. Just gonna do a refresh there and see what's happening. load balance. And Google, are you crashing on me? What's happening? Okay, so our load balance is here. We're gonna open that load balance and see what's in there. Yep, finally we have this. You can see our IP address, same IP address that was displayed to us on the console. This resource is provision, and if I'm just gonna copy that IP address and click go to IP, and boom, we can see our web page is getting served by our load balancer. This is the demo HTML page that's served up by the load balancer. And there you have it. One click deploy. Now we can demo this infrastructure to our shareholders, our teammates, and prototype and make changes and see how this whole if this architecture actually suits our use case or we need to change it up a bit. But this is just amazing. There's a lot of improvements that can be made here, but it's just amazing to have a tool that with one click you can deploy all of this, and you can do that for several other referenced architectures as well. Yeah, I think we've made it to the end of this video. We've talked about the build, we've talked about the referenced architectures, we've talked about the one-click deploy. So this project is based off the Excalibur. Excalibur is an open source diagramming tool available on GitHub here, and that is what the Google Cloud diagramming tool is based off of. And something else I want to show is that's amazing is if you're building multi-cloud architectures, right? Now, note that the core or the icons that you can see here directly are just Google Cloud icons, right? But for example, if your architecture is multi-cloud, something amazing I find that this tool supports is it supports the Excalibur open source icon libraries, right? So if you need, for example, you have architecture spread across AWS or Azure, for example, if you come to the library, you can actually browse and add libraries to your Google Cloud architectures. So I'm gonna search for something like AWS here, for example, and you can see we have different AWS libraries, and you can click and add to Excalibur. Now they have a nice integration in here that when you click that button, what happens? It tells you it's gonna add those shapes to your library. If you say OK, and boom, we have new fresh shapes for our architecture, right? And you can use them as much as you desire. Isn't that amazing? And you can do this with any of the libraries that are available on the Excalibur library, Excalibur public library directory. And that is amazing. That just takes away the limitation of having just Google Cloud icons. So you can actually use this for multi-cloud architecture diagrams as well. Opportunities for improvement I see in this tool. I think this is more of an Excalibur thing, but I think the transitions are not really as smooth as they could be. But I'm sure that's something that will be worked on and improved as long as this tool keeps getting improved. This is just version, the first public version of this tool. I'm sure a lot more features are going to be added as we use this tool. And if you enjoy using this tool, you can please feel free to leave a feedback for the Google team here. Just click on it, share your feedback, and appreciate this amazing tool that Google has put out, and so much more improvements can continue to be done on this tool. So that's it for this video. And yeah, before I go, one last thing I wanted to add is it won't it be amazing if this tool can be integrated into something like the Google Cloud pricing calculator, right? So you can actually preview the estimated cost of an architecture like this when you deploy it, right? That would be awesome, and then you can make reasonable cost-based decisions when you're choosing a referenced architecture that you want to deploy to your Google Cloud console. Okay, that's it. That's a good point you can leave for feedback as a feedback to Google. But yeah, it's an amazing tool. I'm excited to see this, and I hope you are too. Until then, see you next time. I hope you've learned something from this video. Please try it out, see how the tool works for you, and if it does well for you, leave a comment. If you feel this video has helped you, please leave a comment as well. And if you have any suggestions for the Google Cloud tool, please also feel free to leave a comment as well and share it as well with the Google Cloud team using the Google Cloud feedback on the architecture diagram tool. Thank you for watching and see you guys next time.